these are some of the McDonald's Happy Meal toys that we have left over. Sometimes the kids play with them, sometimes they don't. Either way, we end up with a whole bunch of extras. And instead of throwing them away or donating them, I thought it'd be neat to try and upcycle them into different things. First thing I was going to do here is take a board and just cut it down to about 16 or so inches. I'm going to use this to try and make some phone stands. So first, just run it through the table saw to make a groove in it. Then I go ahead and angle the table saw at 45 degrees and make the cut again. This will make the little shelf to hold the phone to better look at the angle there. Next, I just do some quick touch-up sanding, and I measure out about 4 inches. And I take our first McDonald's Happy Meal toy, which is a little minion, and I'm gonna use it to mark out where the feet are gonna go. And you can see there, kind of roughly traced out the feet. Then using a Dremel tool with a little spiral type bit, I end up kind of routing out what would be the footprint of the Happy Meal toy. And once I was happy with that, go ahead and check the fit and make sure that it fits in there snugly and it doesn't go anywhere. Which you can see there, I'm pushing on it, it's just friction fit at the moment. So once I was happy with that, went ahead and trimmed it on the table saw to its finished dimension, and I used some sandpaper just to knock off the corners there. And here I'm using some painter's tape just to mask off the area of the feet, because I'm going to be applying some stain first, and I don't want that area to get stained in it, so that way the glue will have a nice clean surface to adhere to. And just use Danish oil, I think it's dark walnut Danish oil, and apply it per the directions on the can, and put on maybe about 4 or 5 coats. So that was about as stark as I wanted it. And I peel away the tape, and you can see that the footprint there is still clean, so it's ready for the glue. For this I used some 5-minute epoxy, which I just mixed up, and just dab a little bit into the footprint there. I didn't want to get too much in there because I was afraid to squeeze out, so try to just put enough in there so it wouldn't make too much of a mess. And then just simply press the figure into the piece of wood. And just to be safe, didn't have a real good way to clamp this, so I just got some blue painter's tape and taped it down. And here we have the second project that I'm going to do. These are a bunch of little Beanie Babies that came from McDonald's Happy Meals. And again, these were all in the package. My daughter didn't want them, my son didn't want them, and for some reason we just held on to them, put them in a drawer. Here I'm just taking off all the tags and all the threads that are on there. And I've got a rod here that I'm going to use to basically mount these stuffed animals into. This rod came from an old fireplace tool. It was just a brass rod that was covering a fireplace tool. I'm not sure if this was going to work, so I ended up trying one out, and I basically just made a cut in the bottom and cut in the top, and just pushed the rod through to see if it would actually go through without any issues, and it did. So then I pretty much just rinse and repeat and do the same thing for all the rest of them. So this gives you an idea of what it's going to look like, and I'm going to be making a lamp out of these guys. This is a lamp kit that I had from an old project, and I've got some threaded rod as well. The threaded rod is a little bit loose inside of the brass tube there, so I had to crimp the end of the brass tube a little bit, so you'll see it looks a little oblong, so that way the threaded rod will fit a little bit more snugly in there. And I'm going to end up using some epoxy to glue the threaded rod in place. Once the epoxy is mixed, go ahead and slather it onto the threads. Make sure I only cover half of it, because I do plan on using the other part of the threads for the lamp kit and also for the base, which you'll see later. And just to clean off the excess epoxy, I used a paper towel with some acetone on it. That makes quick work of cleaning up that epoxy. And then I set that to dry. For the lamp base, I'm going to use it's a piece of an old tabletop. It's something that was given to me a long time ago and I've been using little by little. Just kind of measure out kind of an oval pill shape that looks about right for the base. And just kind of went with a rough idea of what I thought might look right. And then I used my jigsaw to cut it out, which was probably not the best idea. It came out a little rough, so I had to do a lot of sanding, which you'll see in the next bit here. I used my palm sander just to clean it up, round over the edges as best I could. Next I found the center and drilled out a hole that was slightly smaller than the actual threaded rod that I used in the brass rod. Here's an extra piece of threaded rod, and I use that to make the threads in this tabletop or the base. Now it's pretty hard oak, so it takes the thread pretty well, and it's about an inch thick, so you get a pretty good grab on it there. And to finish it, just use some spray on shellac. It was the fastest, quickest finish I could put on there. For the bottom of the base, I needed to add a little height because the cord was going to be coming out from the bottom, so I used some little plastic feet that allowed the cord to sit underneath the base without it getting snagged or having to bend it too much. I had some trouble running the cord through the brass rod. It would have been smarter to run the cord through the brass rod before gluing in the threaded rod at the very top, and that way once the glue was dry I wouldn't have to worry about running the cord through. It would already be through the rod. So then just thread the rod onto the base and then start assembling the lamp there. Start putting the stuffed animals one at a time. I did end up shortening the total length of the lamp. The rod was just too long initially, and it just didn't look right proportionally, so I ended up shortening it to where it was only 4 stuffed animals tall. I think it looked a lot better with the size of the base and the lampshade that you'll eventually see in a little bit. I didn't record how I put together the lamp kit just because I'm not an electrician and figure it's better safe than sorry. It's better to just follow directions on the package. And here I just did a quick test. And this is the third project. This is probably the easiest one to do. This is a piece of wood that I bought a while ago just as a cutoff from a hardwood store. And I think I measured about 6 inches there, and then I used my sled to cut it. And then here I measure, I think it's about 7.5 inches. And again, use my crosscut sled to make the cut. And there I'm just kind of checking to see if it's going to work, if the cut is good. I'm trying to make a good 90-degree angle there. I should have done this first, but I decided that the pieces were too wide, and I ended up ripping them in half, so it'd be a little bit more narrow. Did that for both of the pieces I previously cut. And this is the other McDonald's toy. This is a tunnel or pipe that had Luigi from the Mario Brothers in it. He kind of shot out once you push that little lever, but in this case I didn't need the lever, it's getting in the way, so I just cut it off. Here I'm going to go ahead and glue these pieces up. I just apply some glue. And attach them using a couple of brad nails just to keep them together. And that's it. Set them off to dry. And make sure they're at 90-degree angles, and that was it. Rinse and repeat for the other side. So this gives you an idea of what the final product's going to look like. These are going to be bookends, but I'm going to use them to hold up video games. So here again, I'm just going to use the same 5-minute epoxy that I've been using in the rest of the project. And same as before, just apply enough so that it'll stick, but want to avoid too much squeeze out because you don't want to have to clean all that mess up. Here again, I didn't have a way to clamp these, so I just got some painter's tape and wrapped it around and secured it to the actual bookend and just did the same thing for the other side. So here are a few different versions of the phone stand that I made. I consider these gateway projects. These are, I think, good projects to get small kids in the shop and have them make something that they'll actually maybe like or use, instead of making like a birdhouse or something that they won't, really get too much use out of. I hope you liked this video, and I'd love to see what you all come up with for Happy Meal toy upcycles.